Okay, so the first thing we did yesterday was learn the first part of completing the square. Who should I go with? I'll go with Casey. I don't think you've been called on for a while. What did we do yesterday? There were 2 steps. Yeah, so there were 2 steps that we did yesterday. I think. Okay, cut the middle number in half. Now, yesterday we only had A and B, like we didn't have a third number. We were purposely putting a third number in. So you need to cut B in half. And I didn't call it B yesterday because there was only one choice. And then the second step, square it. So this is the portion we did yesterday. My hope was that you kind of have these 2 steps down so that they're not something you really even have to think about. It still works because you still take half of a negative number and then still square it. The squaring will make it positive, but if you kind of remember the one number we wrote in the parentheses, that stayed negative. So that was the last example, not the last example we did, probably second to last example. We changed the packet to say minus 7x. So that's what happens with that one. Okay, well, so main difference today is these are equations, right? Like yesterday, it didn't say equals any number. It was just the first 2 terms, and we were trying to find the perfect number to put for the third term. So now that we have a full equation, step 1 from equations, maybe I'll specify that. So what I wrote in blue, the 2 steps there, that's how to complete the square. But if you're trying to solve an equation, completing the square isn't like the whole problem. So if you have an equation, first thing you actually want to do is make sure to move C to the other side. So A and B only on left. So if you have a C, like if I'm looking at number 1, the negative 38 is the C because that's the number by itself. If you have a C, step number 1 is that you get rid of it. And we would get rid of it by doing the opposite. And then this should read p squared plus 14p. And then we're going to leave space for putting in the number that we're going to find, equals 38. So by doing this first step, the left-hand side looks like what we were given yesterday. That's kind of the whole purpose of that step. Casey, want to call on somebody? Kira. See, I wasn't even that mean. I wasn't going to do it. The second step in solving these equations is to complete the square. So what we did yesterday. So what's the first thing we do to complete the square? Take half of which number? 14. Okay, so then we get 7. And then the second thing we do to complete the square is? Okay, so we would add 49 because we took half of the 14 and squared it. Now this is what's going to be different today. So somebody you want to call on or just a number? Oh, I thought you were going to go right to Carly. Okay. Avery. Trying to think how to phrase this. When we solve equations and we like try to cancel a number off, like when I did the plus 38, what do you have to do with that plus 38 when you write it on the problem? Did you do the train tracks when you learned how to solve equations? Invisible line, sure, that works. Invisible line, train tracks. What did you guys get told about 1 billion times when you did it with the train tracks? You have to do it to both sides of the equation. That's all I was trying to ask, Avery. So like when we added the plus 38, we had to do it to both sides of the equation? Alyssa, it makes it hard to learn when you're backwards. I know you may have been trying to help her with something, but like hold off on that for right now. So because I added the plus 49, I can't just randomly add it to one side of the equation. So I have to add plus 49 to the other side. Now when I see, Kira, I think you told me to do the plus 49, right? What I didn't have Kira tell me that we did yesterday. Amaya, can we not do it right now? Turn around. I'm trying to teach, right? Like the one time in class where I need people to try to watch. So even if it's not you, don't distract somebody else. What I didn't have Kira do is write it as the parentheses squared. But that's definitely what we're going to have to do. That's why we practiced it yesterday. Do you guys remember what number will go in here? The 7. It was the number that you cut in half. So just because I don't want to confuse you guys by doing too many steps at once, I didn't do this one right away. So this will say x plus 7 squared equals, what is that, 87? Yeah, pretty sure that's 87. Go ahead. Oh, you look like you had a question on it. Oh, actually, I wrote an X on accident. It was a P. But your question's probably still the same. What we did is we factored it. So like yesterday when we were trying to put in a number that was perfect, we were purposely doing that to factor it as a squared. So we were looking for what two numbers multiply to 49, add to 14, which was 7 and 7. And since they're the same number, you can write it as squared. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out at the end. Were you okay with how we moved the 38 over to start with? Okay, so the reason we moved the 38 over to start with was because we were trying to put a number in here that worked better so that we could actually factor it. Because with the 38, we couldn't factor it. And I get that it may not make sense at first, whatever. This is just going to be a method to try to solve problems. It's like when we learned factoring, quadratic formula, they're just methods to try to solve. So this is going to be one method. And this is probably the least popular one just because of the steps. Wait, who just answered? Avery, you were the one that just answered? Kind of, yeah. Do you want to call on somebody? Oh, just give a number. 12? 9, 10, 11, 12. Kai. From earlier this week, if our goal is to solve for p, do you remember how to cancel off the squared? What's the opposite of squared, I guess is what I'm trying to ask. Square root. So we would take the square root of both sides. This is why we learned Monday and Tuesday, was so that we would be able to finish these problems. How about this, Kai? Do you remember what happens when we do the square root of a squared? Like, we learned something new on Monday that happens only when we do square root to squared. Okay? Salim? Do you remember what happens when we do square root of a squared? True. Something specific happens, though. Perfect. Plus and minus. So my next line would read p plus 7 because I just canceled out that squared symbol. And then the plus and minus happens because of that. I don't know what squared 87 is. Did somebody type that in already? Is it like 9.3? 9.3, okay. Thank you. And then the last step, which I think you guys are pretty good at, just subtracting 7. Hi. Thanks. So now plus and minus means I'm going to have to do positive 9.3 minus 7, which is 2.3. And then negative 9.3 minus 7, which I think is negative 16.3. Yeah. These would be our two answers. I forgot to write the step up here. If you guys were writing down the steps to this, I figured I'd try to at least write them down for you, because when you make a cheat sheet, that's probably one thing you want to do. Third step is square root both sides. Now, I don't know if you guys are not even sure what to ask. Like, does this feel pretty confusing right now, or does this feel okay? Not okay? Okay, we're probably all, I guess everybody's probably at a little bit different spot. Okay, I figured if nothing, I wanted to try doing a handful of these with you. Okay, so number 2. First step, A and B have to be the only thing on the left. So I want to get rid of minus 59 by adding it. And if you find that there's not even close to enough room for you on the worksheet, feel free to write on other paper. I know that's one of the downsides of worksheets. Okay, so then I'll have v squared plus 6v. I'm going to leave a space, because I'm going to put a number in there, equals 59. Now my goal here is to figure out what number I should be writing in that spot. Salim, I called on you. Do you want to pick somebody? No. Okay. Who should we go with? Minnie. Let's go with you. What number am I going to put here? And I can give you the steps if you need them. 9, perfect. Because I feel like some of you are probably just doing this step in your head now. Take half of 6, which is 3, square it. And then immediately what I'm going to do is that 3, I will put in the parentheses. Oh, God. What did I forget to do? Which is something you guys will probably forget too. Add the 9 to the other side. Now, I used to have teachers that would make me write plus blank on both sides as a method to not forget to write the nines in both spots. If that's something you might forget, maybe that would be a good idea too. Maybe we'll try that on the next problem. 68. Okay. So we did step 2, completing the square. Step 3, square root both sides. The squared symbol will be gone. This is probably like 8.1 or 8.2. 2? Okay, 8.2. It's a little bit bigger than 64, so I know the answer is going to be a little bit bigger than 8. Go ahead. How come? I did. No, I mean, go ahead, and I guess I'm not sure why you're asking to subtract the 9. Are you thinking to cancel it? Like to move it to the other side type thing? I gotcha. So we did that with the 59 to start. And then once we did that with the 59, we did that so that we could put a number in here that made it perfect. Kind of like what we were doing yesterday. And so this number will always be added, and we keep it there. Ugh, I was talking while I was writing stuff down too. Abby, what did I forget? I forgot to write something. Oh, wait. We have a lot of Abbies. You guys are writing even in a row, and I guess I didn't even think of that. Whatever you want. At least one decimal. Are you unsure? Do you want me to go to somebody else? Abby? Okay. Grayson. What did I forget to write? Nothing I wrote up there is incorrect, but I forgot to write something that would make the answer wrong. Anybody over here? The plus and minus, perfect. There's tons of little details that are going to be easy to forget to do. Going through these slow is kind of the only way to try to remember them. Last step will be to subtract 3. Okay, so I've got 8.2 minus 3. If you want a way to remember that if you forgot the plus and minus, I would have only had one answer, and these will all have to have 2 answers. 8.2 minus 3 will be 5.2. I don't know. I thought I heard somebody say it was 8.2. Oh, gotcha. Sure. 8.3 works. I'll just leave it as a 2 because I already wrote it. But yeah, I didn't have a calculator on me, so I was kind of guessing. So negative 8.2 minus 3 would be negative 11.2. Or did I do something wrong? Yeah. Oh, so the plus and minus. Let me write them up top. I was basically trying to save space. So the plus and minus part of this means that you're going to use 2 separate numbers. You're going to use positive 8.2 and negative 8.2. Kind of like when we did the quadratic formula. And so that's where you get the 2 answers from. The 3 has nothing to do with the 2 answer part. It just has something to do with the final answer. Because we subtracted 3. No, 0.3 is correct. I wouldn't, though, no. I'm just mainly looking to see that you're doing it correct for right now, especially because this is the first time you've learned it. Like on your guys' test, I know some of you haven't seen it yet, but I didn't round On the quadratic formula problems, when you had a decimal, I didn't mark it wrong if you rounded up or down a little bit. I was just checking to see if you did the correct square root. Do you want me to do another one with you? Or do you feel like you could try one on your own yet? Try one on your own? Okay. Try number 3. And if you can't really figure it out, obviously just wait a little bit and we'll do it together. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even think of that. Oh, Maya, you probably need a worksheet too, huh? I didn't even think of that. Sorry. You need one too. There you go.
Get there.
Do we have to do the whole sheet?
Probably not. I'm going to kind of see where we are though.
Already a negative, and it's like a plus minus.
What do you mean? Oh, that flip right there. You would have. Oh, you forgot to add 36. I was going to say, if that happened, you actually stop it because that can't be a solution. Perfect. And don't forget to add the other side. Okay, I see a lot of you are already done with 3, so I'll put the answer up there because I see quite a few of you moving past 3, which that's smart. Just you kind of just starting to move on, and because you know that's going to be part of the work. Oh, go for it. So there's the 2 answers for number 3 up there. Number 3 is the first one that worked out nicely on the square root part because it was 100. So we didn't have a decimal. I thought this might be a good part for me to stop, especially since I saw quite a few of you moving on. I was hoping you could do the first 8. And I know some of you are basically already there. But a lot of you, these problems go pretty slow. So if you can make it through the first 8 today, that'd be perfect. And then I will get it set up in Schoology because I don't even have it in Schoology yet. I was correcting tests before school, so I'll get everything set up in Schoology for you to turn it in. I'm going to try to keep correcting so I won't have my gradebook open. But tomorrow is the no new content day where people are going to do retakes and things like that if they want to. So I will definitely have the gradebook open tomorrow for anybody that wants to turn things in, basically just take care of any kind of grade business.